All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the court's understanding that you've reached a unanimous verdict. Is that correct? All right, if you'll pass the form to Deputy Laura, please. Thank you. All right, the form appears to be in order. And it states, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kadir Gunner, guilty of the offense of sexual assault as charged in the indictment. Does anyone wish to have the jurors polled?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, state and defense, are you both ready to proceed with the second phase of the trial? All right, state, do you have any opening statements to present?
We'll waive opening.
Defense, any opening statements?
We'll waive it.
All right, state, call your witness.
State calls Jessica Bottle-Gary. She's on her way down now.
All right, thank you. And Deputy Mejia, if you could, Deputy Laura, if you could mute us and stop video for one moment. State.
Your Honor, she was right upstairs. She didn't want to come down until the verdict was read.
Okay. All right, is this your witness now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And I'll correct. The state calls Jessica Romagnoli.
All right, if you'll come forward, please. Oh, she's different. All right, if you'll raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record, please. Oh, have a seat. Yeah. If you'll state your name for the record and spell it, and just try to keep your voice up so that the jurors can hear.
Okay, is this okay?
Yes, louder, please. I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear me? Before we get started, I believe we need to approach.
Okay.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, Jessica. Um, And I'm sorry, did you spell your name for the record?
It's Jessica Romoli, Romagnoli.
Jessica, how old are you?
I'm 39.
Have you ever been to the Turkish Mediterranean Grill located off Valley High Drive in Bear County, Texas?
I have.
And why were you there?
I had went to go get CareLink, and before I drove home, I thought I should have some lunch.
And when was this?
This was in 2014.
And when you went to the restaurant, can you tell me what happened when you got in there?
I went in and I ate some lunch. I was served by the defendant and we got to talking.
I'm sorry, I'll stop you right there. Was it a man that served you at the restaurant?
It was.
Do you see that man in the courtroom
I
today?
do.
Can you please identify him by an article of clothing?
It was that man in the gray tie with the navy jacket. The defendant.
She has identified the defendant, Kadir. Okay. So the man in the courtroom today served you your lunch.
Yes.
And what happened after you ate your lunch?
Well, during the course of lunch, we were talking about the food, the cuisine, and how good the food was. And I had said something like, it's kind of slow in here. He had said something along the lines of, I need to have more staff because our dinner is usually busier. And we got to talking because I also just so happened to need a job. And I think I made a joke, something like, it's too bad I live so far away, because at the time I lived probably 20, 30 miles out. And he was like, oh, well, you need a job. I need somebody that could, I don't remember if he said speak better English, but I know that he'd referenced a girl that was like, well, this is the only server that I have at nighttime, and I need somebody else that could be here as well. And so we got to talking about how many hours I might work or part-time or shifts to make it worth the travel time from where I had lived. And he had said, well, if you'd like, I could give you a job.
Okay. And did you take him up on that offer?
Well, he had said that I needed to do an application, and I took him up on the offer to do an application to talk about it further.
Okay. And did you complete the application?
No, I remember he went towards the back of the restaurant where there's the kitchen, the bathroom, and I'm assuming an office. And he had come out and said, the applications are in my car or something like that, or I need to go in my car and get application. And I believe he went out the door because I was like signing my ticket to pay my bill. And he'd come back in and he mentioned that he needed to go to the bank, which was across the street. And he would use the copy machine there to make an application copy, I guess.
And did he have you stay there? What did he want you to do while he got the application copy?
Well, I think in the conversation,
That'll be sustained.
Did he indicate where he wanted you to be when you went to go get the application?
he asked if I wanted to go with him across the street for him to go to the bank and get the copy so I could fill out the application because I had to go back across town.
And did you take him up on that offer?
To go across the street, I did.
Do you recall what time of day it was?
Yes. It was the middle of the day, or like the middle of the afternoon, broad daylight, clear day, really sunny. And that's one of the reasons why I said, sure, I'll go across the street because it's just across the street. And
So did you follow him to his car?
I did.
Did you, get in the car to go to the bank? Okay.
I remember getting in the passenger seat and I remember him starting to drive. So I guess I must have gotten the car voluntarily.
Okay. And did he go across the street?
Well, no, he pulled out. And from what I remember, the way that you have to go around to wherever he said his bank was, the mall and the parking garage for the mall is right across the street. So I thought he probably means slightly behind or slightly in front. So I remember he turned out of whatever that road from his parking lot for his restaurant. You go out to that street and I thought, okay, he's probably just gonna go to the stoplight, take a left, go to the bank on the other side, which is still to me across the street, but he got on 410 instead.
And what was going through your mind when he started getting on the 410?
I thought, why are we getting on the highway? And I believe I asked him, like, I thought we're going across the street.
And do you recall what he said, if anything?
I don't remember what he replied to me asking him about where are we going,
Okay.
and not right away.
Did you end up getting to a destination?
We did, because as he continued to drive down 410, I remember asking him again, this is not across the street, where are you taking me? And he started making some comments and physically doing some things. And I remember thinking, I can't jump out at 410, I'll get hit by a car, but still reaching for the door handle, try to get out of the car. Meanwhile, trying to fight him off from doing certain things to me. And we did arrive at a destination, I guess. It was a bank, like up the street, across the highway, and up a couple other streets, I guess. I don't know, kind of moved really fast.
Okay. When he, how did he first physically contact you?
He grabbed my hand and put it, well, on his thigh area, his groin area.
Did he do anything else?
He did. He was at that point not answering my question about why are we on the highway? Where are we going? Let me out. And he started trying to tell me how pretty I was, that he was going to take me to his house. And he started to use his hand that wasn't on the steering wheel to paw across my chest and down my shirt, while telling me how he's going to take me to his house after he stops at the bank.
Do you recall how long you were in the car with him?
I mean, in some moments it felt like half a second, other moments it felt like hours. All I remember is that he did stop at the bank. He stopped at a security service federal credit union somewhere over across the highway up Jones Maltzberger, some road over there somewhere, 281. And he stopped at the bank, and I don't remember how I came with him, but I know it was like, if I can get out and get in the bank, maybe I'll be okay. And indeed, there was a door right in front when you walk in the bank. And I remember running into the bathroom and I thought, oh my God, there's a lock on the door. Oh my God, thank God. And there was a woman in there, and she saw how upset I was. And of course, that's where she's like, okay, we're going to make sure he's not going to bother you. Just stay in here and lock the door behind me.
Did he, you mentioned he put your hand on his thigh. Did it ever go to the point of any genital contact?
I mean, as panicked as I was, I'm sure over the clothing there was some contact that seemed to be where he wanted me to be touching him, but I was trying to pull away from him and reach for the door handle before realizing, I guess, the child lock or something must be on, because I can't even open the door, even though I was also thinking, why am I going to open the door on 410? What will happen then? It's like, well, either way.
To your knowledge, was Mr. Gunner ever prosecuted for what he did to you?
No.
How has that incident impacted you?
Well, I don't think that I've been this far downtown in many, many years. In big part because I know if I drive past that area, I'll have flashbacks about the incident that happened. And I still sometimes have nightmares, and I sometimes will see somebody that looks like him and kind of do a double take, because I do still live in the city. And I try to tell myself that, you know, it's been that long, but I also think it was broad daylight, and to be taken into a car in the middle of the day when you think you're going to have an opportunity and it turns into a really bad traumatizing event. I don't know. I don't know. It's affected me pretty negatively.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Defense?
Ma'am, did you file a report?
I'm sorry, did I file? I did.
And how long have you been in contact with the prosecutor's office?
With the prosecutor's office?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd say a week or two.
You indicated by your testimony that you, while y'all were having this discussion, he asked you to go with him.
He did.
While y'all were having this discussion, do you believe that there was did he have a very heavy accent?
A very heavy accent.
A very heavy accent.
Yeah, because I remember during the course of my meal, we talked about, oh, well, you're obviously from Turkey, and you know, your accent is nice, you know, and that's one of the reasons he was, from my understanding, offering me a job, because the other girl he had pointed to in the restaurant, he said something like, you know, her accent's too heavy, or she doesn't have clear English, and that's why if it's so slow in here, I could get more customers with somebody that speaks clearer English. And that's when we started talking about maybe you could work here. Oh, I do need a job, and that's where that transpired from.
And you realized that I guess at that moment that he was Turkish.
I mean, it's Turkish Mediterranean grill, so I just assumed, and I think he might have told me when we were talking about the baba ganoush that I had bought that he was Turkish, but I just, in my current recollection, I assumed that he was Turkish.
And so you were aware that he wasn't from here, he was an immigrant back then. He wasn't born here. You realized that at some point, probably.
I mean, I can't say that he wasn't born here. I don't know where he was born. I know people that have been born here and travel and come back and they have an accent, so I'm not sure. I didn't ask him that.
Would you agree that maybe there was some issue in regards to, you know, his values and traditions from the country he came from in dealing with you?
I'm sorry.
Speculation.
All right, that'll be overruled. You can answer it if you can answer it. If you can't answer it, then you cannot.
I don't really understand the question.
All right, counsel, witness states she does not understand the
Well,
question.
Yeah. And I'm only in regard to different countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and how they treat women and the rights of women in those countries. They're not the same as they are here. I'm sure you're aware of that, right?
Not necessarily. I have other people I know from those regions that they don't act that way.
Would you agree that in the countries where women are required to cover their bodies, if they don't do that, they break the law and they can go to jail?
Objection.
Yeah, you heard that.
All right, that'll be sustained.
My point being here, you can ask me, would you agree that maybe there would have been a misinterpretation in communicating with you based on his background and traditions in the country that he came from? Maybe a miscommunication between the two of you?
Object to speculation.
All right, that'll be overruled.
You may answer this question.
Can you restate the question?
Because of the country he comes from, the traditions that they have in those areas, would you believe that maybe there was some kind of miscommunication between the two of you because of that background that he had?
At the time, I didn't currently then know many people from that region. And so I don't make a claim to know what other countries were like at that point. I've only met people from that region since then.
And could he have misunderstood when you voluntarily got into his car?
Object to speculation.
Sustained.
Did you voluntarily get into his car?
I think so.
Were you forced into his car?
I don't think so.
You're just not sure?
Like I said, things moved pretty quick and it's been a long time, but from my recollection, I remember that we were talking about a job and I do remember very clearly thinking it's the middle of the day, it's just across the street. And for the record, I really needed to work. So I was, okay, if it's just across the street, I'll go. I feel safe enough because it's the middle of the day and it's just across the street and it's to work.
Have you ever done anything like that before?
No.
That's your first time?
Object to relevance.
That'll be overruled.
My first time getting in a car with a potential employer.
Stranger?
You want to object to improper impeachment?
That'll be overruled.
You may answer the question.
Okay, my first time getting in a car with a stranger.
Yes, the stranger.
Object to improper character evidence.
That'll be overruled.
You may answer the question.
I guess through the course of my entire lifetime, probably not. But a stranger that's just a stranger, I don't make it a point to get in a car with them, but a stranger that's a possible employer that I feel like I could trust to be a professional. Yeah, I had worked at an insurance company prior to that, where I would ride with my boss quite a bit to the bank, as a matter of fact.
Had you ever met him before that date?
Mr. Gunner?
Had you ever, yes, Mr. Gunner, had you met him?
No,
before?
no, I'd never been to his restaurant ever in my life before.
Had you ever met him before the moment that you met him that afternoon?
No, but I had lunch for quite a while, and during our conversation, that's where I got the sense that he'd be a safe person.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last.
I said I had been at the restaurant for quite a while, eating my lunch, and as we had conversated, that's where I got the sense that he'd be a safe person.
On the
Based off
same day?
my entire time there, yes,
On the same day?
yes,
So you met him that day?
yes.
Did you get out of the car voluntarily?
I don't remember.
How did you get it? Did you exit the car yourself?
I think he had his hand on my arm because I couldn't get out of the car on my own. He had to open the door.
He opened the door for you to get out of the car
Yes,
to let you out?
he did.
We'll have to wait.
State.
No further questions.
All right, thank you. You may step down. State, call your next witness.
The state, we call Jayla Jennings.
All right, if you'll take a seat and you're still under oath. State.
Good afternoon, Jayla.
Hi.
I want to pick up a little bit where we left off. Previously, I believe we ended our conversation about, after law enforcement got involved. Did you hear from Mr. Gunner again after he was arrested?
Yes, he had reached out to me on Instagram, and immediately when that happened, I told the police.
When did that occur?
I want to say like a couple of days after the incident, he messaged me like from the restaurant account, and I didn't respond. I just screenshotted it and sent it to the police.
Jayla, how has this incident impacted your career?
For the longest time, or even still to this day, I've never worked a job by myself. It was either family members or had to be there. And even currently, I work with my boyfriend. Never started a job without knowing what I was getting into or like who was going to be there. It affects me when like I talk to, if there's ever like a older man that presents themselves to me, I feel like I just shut down, or I just tell my boyfriend to like be around me, or like don't leave me alone with anybody. Even when I have to think about the incident, it's very hard to talk about. So this has been very hard to do. Yeah, and very hard to be, with my partner, my boyfriend. It's kind of just hard to, so.
We didn't hear it from you, but there was testimony throughout the trial that this was your first sexual encounter.
Yes.
Did that impact you?
Yes. It just made me, I don't like to be touched sometimes. And so I get sometimes a little aggressive when I get touched. So in that manner, or I even felt dirty for the longest time. Like I just felt that I was like ashamed, or even now, like just embarrassed, like when it gets brought up about how I didn't fight back. And I feel like that's probably my biggest regret. Thinking back that I should have fought, but I was just scared, I guess, or shocked. I don't know. But even that, like when people just bring that up, it's just like you don't really know until you're in that situation.
Have you had any mental health treatment at all since this happened?
I had therapy for a while after, but yeah, just therapy, a lot of therapy.
Did you have an emotional support animal? at any
Yes,
time?
I currently have an emotional support animal. Her name is Socks, and I love her so much.
Did you ever have one before this incident?
No, not before the incident. I've owned a pet, but this one is now specifically because I get just moments of like I feel like I dissociate sometimes, and I just like sometimes I guess I'm not there. And so she can bring me back. She just rests her head on me, and it usually just brings me back. So very grateful for her.
Do you feel safe?
Currently, yes, I do feel safe with the people that I have around me. I think for the longest time after the event, I just felt very disconnected from people. I just felt just kind of like stuck and like what I could have done or what I should have done differently for a long time. Therapy helped with that, but yeah, for the long time after it, I just kind of felt like my innocence was taken. And like, I think before that incident, I guess I was just too naive. I don't know. So I just feel like now I just kind of have a little bit of a less trusting for the world or people I encounter. So that's unfortunate.
Thank you, Jayla. I'll pass the witness, Jenna.
All right, excuse me. Oh, that's okay. They may have some questions. Defense.
Jenny, you've indicated by your testimony that now you've reached a level of feeling safe again. And that helped you in the healing process, I'm sure. To feel safe now,
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's your question?
in your healing process,
Yes.
feeling safe, it aided you, it helped you in healing.
Yes, feeling safe, yes.
And part of feeling safe here was because you realize that there's a no contact order between you and Mr. Kadir. You cannot contact.
Yes,
He can't come near you. He can't go anywhere where you are. Nothing like that, right?
yes,
And that helps you feel safe. right?
yes,
And as long as that condition exists, where he's ordered not to come near you, not to be near you, and he obeys that, that's important to you for your safety and for your peace of mind, right?
very important. Yes,
And if the judge ordered it, if Mr. Gunner gets on probation and he's ordered to continue to respect your space and your privacy, that's what you would want, right?
for there to be a no contact order and for him to,
No contact order, there would be no contact order.
wait,
If
I'm,
there wasn't no contact like you have right now, would that help? Would that be something you would want to continue?
yes, I would like to continue for him not to reach out to me or anything of that sort.
Do you believe that part of your own healing process is aided by forgiving?
I'm sorry, huh?
Well, are you a spiritual person?
Am I a spiritual person? Like, am I religious?
Yes, that's a good word also, are you religious?
Your Honor, I'm object to all of this.
I'll overrule. If you can answer it, you can answer it. If you cannot, you don't have to.
Am I real? In a sense, I guess I was raised Christian. So I do have some Christianity beliefs, and then there's some things that, so I really don't know. Religion is a very like, I don't know.
I give you not a regular church going person.
No.
Do you believe that one way to change a person or help a person change it would involve forgiveness?
I'm just confused, like what you're implying. Would it involve forgiveness? Are you saying with some people they're worth forgiving?
Well, I'm just saying that as part of your healing process,
Uh-huh.
you move forward. Do you believe that forgiveness is important in that process to you?
I feel like after 5 years, I still don't forgive this person. I feel like he took advantage of me and he knew what he was doing. And he like preyed on me almost. So if you're asking me to forgive this person,
No, ma'am, that's not what
okay, well, because I don't see that happening. I don't know. So I really don't know what you want me to say. Like,
Any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor, briefly, Jayla. Over the last 5 years, when there's been a no contact order, that, sorry, you have to say yes or no.
oh, sorry. Yes, there's been a no contact order.
But have you still seen Mr. Gunner?
Yes, there's been incidents where there was one time I was working with my mom. We had this job where we had to like hand out codes to people and we would go to different social events. And I remember she went to go get food. She went to give me something to eat. And she just kind of came back and was like, grab your things, let's go. And I remember being like, why are we leaving? Like, we are working. And she was like, I'll tell you in the car, just grab your things and let's go. And it was in the car when she told me that she had seen Kadir's food truck. And then I kind of had a panic attack in the car. And then it was a time when I went out to eat with my boyfriend and his family. And we went to a seafood place, and Kadir's food truck also happened to be in the same vicinity. And at the time, his parents didn't know the situation, but my boyfriend did. And I broke down and just asked if we could leave. And they didn't know why, but then I explained to them. But it's been a few times where he's been kind of seen, if not around me, but by my family.
Thank you. No further questions.
No further
Defense.
questions.
All right, thank you. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state rests.
Defense.
Your Honor, may we please take a brief recess?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. And I promise it will only be 10 minutes. So we'll be back in at 5 p.m. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. Have a seat.
If I may.
Yes. All right, we're,
Darn it.
yes. All
Okay.
right, you can bring them in.
All right, so the jury. Oh, guys, then. Oh,
That's my fault. All right, please be seated. All right, defense, call your witness.
Nora, you're gonna have to say and spell your last name.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? And defense, who are you calling?
Judge, this is an employee of one of Mr. Gunner's restaurants.
All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes.
All right, you can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record, please, and spell it.
My name is Noor N-O-O-R, and then the last name Hassan.
Defense.
Ms. Hassan, would you tell the jury how long you've known Mr. Gunner?
Well, I work with him like 10 years ago. I work about almost 2 years. And then I left the job and because I had a baby. And then I just came in back almost 2 years ago.
So, okay.
So,
You understand that he is now being convicted of sexual assault?
okay.
Do you understand that part of that is that he's going to have to register as a sex offender till the end of time? You understand that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but
Okay.
so now I know.
I want you to describe to the jury, has anything ever inappropriate happened between he and you? Has he ever been unprofessional with you?
No, I don't think so.
Has
That's
he-
why, I came back. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So he's
I
always
don't-
been professional?
Yeah, he's a professional guy and, he's my boss and I work with him. And then that's why I came in back. And then when I came in back, he called me, says, no, do you want to come back? I was okay. And I came and I never had any problem with him. And like, again, he's my boss, he's professional and I never had any problem with him.
How would you describe him? How would you describe his personality?
Well, he's nice guy. He's like, with the way how he talks, like he's mad, but he has a good heart. He has really good heart, Well, and he's my boss again, and we work together, and he's a
And
nice person.
let me ask you, in the years you've known him, do you think that if he was given rules to follow for the community, that he would follow those rules, that he would be able to follow those rules?
Of course, yes.
No matter what those rules were?
Well, I mean, it depends the rules, but he followed the rules,
How many employees work at the location you work at?
So right now, we are about three waiters outside. So two, like one guy and then me and another girl, she started working like about a month ago. So now we are two girls and then one guy.
Is this the restaurant that you first started working at or different?
Yes, this is my first time. And then when I came back, it was the same location.
Okay,
Yeah.
no further questions.
All right, state.
Ms. Hassan.
Yes.
You said you first met the defendant 10 years ago?
Something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's like 11 years ago.
Have you, do you have a friendship or relationship with him outside of work?
I don't know him, but I know him from my friend. She used to work with him. And then when they hiring, so I was okay. So I work with him. But it's like
So your
I don't,
relationship with him is purely,
it's like it's professional, it's like works. Yeah.
were you aware of were you aware of the allegations in this case prior to being called to testify today?
if I'm aware.
Did you
From-
know about this?
Yeah, if I'm aware from him
Um,
or from,
At all? Did you know that this had occurred prior to being called to testify in this case?
if you ask me if you were, oh, from him, I was, no,
I'll rephrase it, and make it a little clearer. Were you aware that Jayla Jennings had accused the defendant of rape prior to being here today?
what do you mean? I didn't understand.
Did you know that the defendant had been accused of rape?
So I know right now,
So you just found out about that today?
like I know right now, but I like before I don't know, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you know that he had were you aware of an incident that occurred with a Jessica Romagnoli in about 2014?
I don't know that, no.
So you hadn't been aware that he had taken a woman in his car to a different location?
That'll be overruled.
Well, I don't know, like,
Well, I'll finish the question. So you didn't know that he had taken a different woman in his vehicle to a separate location and inappropriately touched her?
no, I don't know.
And you testified that while at work, you nothing very well.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right. Thank you. You may step down.
Welcome.
All right. Defense, call your next witness.
We call Claudia Gunner.
You may step
I'm
down.
done.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And counsel, does someone need to bring Ms. Gunner in?
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You have a seat here, please. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can have a seat. Just make sure you keep your voice up so that the jurors can hear. So have a seat, and if you could state your name for the record and spell it.
My name is Claudia Gunner. First name and last name?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I'm so nervous. First name Claudia, Claudia. Last name Gunner, Gunner, Gunner.
Defense.
Ms. Gunner, you understand that Kadir has been convicted of sexual assault.
I just learned that.
Well, the verdict just came back. Okay. Would you, my interaction with you is to give the jury an idea of Kadir. Does he have children?
Yes,
Now, those two children do not live with him?
no.
What are their ages?
Sophia's 10 and Sepa's 8.
And Kadir pays child support for both of those children?
Yes, he does.
How long have you been married to Kadir?
5 years.
And do you think that if he was granted probation, that he would successfully be able to follow the rules and regulations of probation?
Yes, of course.
Do you know that part of those rules would be that he registers a sex offender? Do you understand that?
Yes,
That would have a tremendous negative effect on your household. Is that correct?
obviously, yes.
Do you still think that with all of that, he'd be able to follow the rules and regulations that probation will require of him.
Yes,
The state brought some witness from 10 years ago to testify that she voluntarily got in a car with Kadir and that he was physically inappropriate, groping her, and she voluntarily got out when he opened the door. I think that's to show that maybe he's a continuing threat. Do you believe that Kadir is a threat to the community?
That'll be overruled. You can answer the question.
I'm sorry, thank you, Judge. Do you believe Kadir is a continuing or threat to the community?
no, he's not.
Are both of you hard workers?
Yes,
What would happen to his businesses or to his business if he is not given probation?
obviously, his business would be unsuccessful and fail, and he wouldn't be able to provide to his children, to his family.
Are you aware how many employees he has?
Not specifically, he has 2 locations, I would say between both of them, maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
It just depends.
Ms. Gunner, again, do you think that, I think it's important to convey that you not only understand, but you truly believe that this is not a continuing threat. This is something that can be, I guess, not regulated, but I guess regulated is a good word. His behavior can be regulated, correct?
Yes,
If he was placed on probation.
yes.
Would you be able to help or assist him in any way if he needed it while he's out on probation?
Of course.
Absolutely.
State.
Thank you. Ms. Cooner, you married, the defendant 5 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
When did you first meet?
I met him in March, the end of March. So obviously shortly after this incident occurred.
In March of 2018?
Yes.
What month did you get married?
In May.
So you've known each other for 2 months?
Yeah.
And before you married the defendant, were you aware of these allegations?
He did share with me that more or less what happened.
More or less, what do you mean by that?
That he had an employee who was planning something, who kissed him and went to jail, and has just been fighting, not fighting, but with the lawyers. And we tried not to focus on that. We tried to focus on the kids and my job and the business. I didn't know him then or when it happened. So I wasn't there and I didn't know him.
Okay. And so in his telling you about these allegations, he claimed that it was the fault of the victim.
He,
Objection to misleading.
All right. That'll be overruled. You can answer the question.
Kadir just wasn't very experienced with females. He shared with me that he had been married a very long time, but separated from his first wife, and then met Denise, who is the mother of his younger children, and didn't have a lot of experience with females. So I'm not saying he said she was at fault. He didn't say he was at fault. He said he got himself into a situation that he regrets and was very nervous because of the allegation.
And how often does the defendant see his children?
The first, third, and fifth, and then on the holidays. It's a standard custody order.
Does he still stay in contact with the mother of his children?
Periodically. I mean, she's not very friendly with either of us. He tries to.
And were you also, did the defendant ever make you aware of allegations in which he had I guess someone who was seeking employment from him in his vehicle and drove her to a different location while he touched her inappropriately?
No.
Why did you marry the defendant after knowing him for 2 months?
I fell in love with him. I mean, he's a great person, great man. He's spiritual. He's a family man. And I'm spiritual myself. He's Muslim, I'm Muslim. And we fell in love and we agreed that it was something we both wanted to do.
Where did the two of you meet?
At his restaurant.
Did you frequent his restaurant? pretty often?
No.
How many times had you been there before you met him?
Twice.
And are you involved with his business at all?
I am, yeah, I'm his wife, so I help him. When I first met him, I helped him a lot.
Do you help out?
I have my own job, so keeps me busy.
Are you ever in the restaurant helping him?
Yes.
How often?
Not so much anymore, but when I first met him, I was there every day. Now, I'd say, I mean, I only come with the kids on the weekends that we have them to have brunch and lunch, and I will help if he is shorthanded.
Nothing further on.
Right, defense.
Just a couple more questions. Does Kadir provide for his children?
Yes,
He provides for his employees.
yes.
Do you think that Kadir could be sufficiently punished without going to prison?
Yes, absolutely. And he has been punished through this whole ordeal.
And you know that he may very well have many more years to be punished. So if he's given the opportunity to be punished on probation, to be a registered sex offender, to have to abide by the court rules, to have to abide by regulations, curfews, do you think he would be successful?
I know he will.
Will you be there to help support him emotionally?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Nothing based on that.
Right. You may step down. Thank you. All right, defense, call your next witness.
That's all we have, Your Honor.
All right, state, do you close?
State closes, Your Honor.
Yes. Defense, do you close?
Yes. you close.
All right,
Thank you, Ms.
ladies and gentlemen, I know I keep saying I'm going to give you a break and I misestimate the time. But I'm going to call you back at 5:50. And at that time, both the state and the defense will have a chance to give you closing arguments on punishment. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have received all the evidence that you'll be receiving in this case. I'm going to read to you what is entitled Charge of the Court on Punishment. Again, you will be given a copy of this back with you in the deliberation room, so you don't have to memorize it. Members of the jury, by your verdict returned in this case, you have found the defendant, Kadir Gunner, guilty of the offense of sexual assault. It is necessary that the jury assess the punishment for this offense. You are instructed that the punishment for sexual assault is confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for any term of not more than 20 years or less than 2 years. Therefore, you will assess the punishment of the defendant for a term of not more than 20 years or less than 2 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division. In addition to imprisonment, an individual found guilty of the offense of sexual assault may be punished by a fine not to exceed $10,000. And if you choose to assess a fine in addition to imprisonment, you will assess such fine and so state in your verdict. The defendant in this case has applied on written sworn motion for community supervision, stating among other things that he has never been convicted of a felony in this or any other state. Our statutes provide that where a defendant is found guilty of sexual assault and the jury assesses the punishment at not more than 10 years, and they further find that the defendant has never been convicted of a felony in this or in any other state, the jury may, within its discretion, recommend community supervision during the good behavior of the defendant. If the jury does recommend community supervision, it will be granted by the court. If there's any evidence before you that the defendant may have previously committed an act of misconduct other than that for which you have convicted him, you are instructed that this evidence, if any, was admitted to assist you, if it does, in determining what sentence is appropriate in the case at hand. You may consider that evidence in assessing punishment only if you first believe beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed such other act of misconduct, if any. In the event you have a reasonable doubt as to whether any other such act of misconduct was committed, or as to whether the defendant was involved in such other act of misconduct, if any, then you will wholly disregard the evidence, if any, which may relate to any such matter. You are instructed that the defendant may testify on his behalf if he chooses to do so, but if he elects not to do so, that fact cannot be taken by you as a circumstance against him, nor prejudice him in any way. The defendant has elected not to testify in this punishment phase of trial, and you are instructed that you cannot and must not refer or allude to that fact throughout your deliberations or take it into consideration for any purpose whatsoever. In your deliberations, you may not consider evidence introduced during the In your deliberations, you may consider evidence introduced during the guilt phase of the trial, as well as any evidence introduced at the punishment phase of the trial. Under the instructions herein given, it will not be proper for you in determining the penalty to be assessed to fix the same by lot, chance, any system of averages, or any other method than by full, fair, and free exercise of the opinion of the individual jurors under the evidence admitted before you. The length of time for which a defendant is in prison may be reduced by the award of parole. Under the law applicable in this case, if the defendant is sentenced to a term of imprisonment, the defendant will not become eligible for parole until the actual time served equals 1/2 of the sentence imposed. If the defendant is sentenced to a term of less than 4 years, the defendant must serve at least 2 years before the defendant is eligible for parole. Eligibility for parole does not guarantee that parole will be granted. It cannot accurately be predicted how the parole law might be applied to this defendant because the application of that law will depend on decisions made by parole authorities. You may consider the existence of the parole law. You are not to consider the manner in which the parole law may be applied to this particular defendant. A suitable form is attached hereto for your verdict if you should care to use the same. However, such form is not intended to influence you in any way in arriving at your verdict. In any event, your verdict must be unanimous in writing and signed by your presiding juror. Respectfully submitted, Judge Stephanie Boyd, 187th District Court, Bear County, Texas. Suitable forms are attached. State, are you prepared to proceed with closing?
Your Honor, we'll preserve our time.
All right, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. I can just say that the weight and burden of your job is, it's just immense. It gives me chill bumps just thinking about this. All we can do at this point is respect your verdict. And we do respect your verdict. That's why we put the case before you. Now comes the time to sentence Mr. Gunner. And the range of punishment here is 2 to 20. And obviously the range of punishment is depending on the severity of the act here, the physical violence part, the physical force part. The greater that is, it goes to the higher level of punishment, as it should. That's why there's this sliding scale of punishment from 2 to 20. Obviously, had there been black eyes, scratching, broken arms, something of much greater physical force than what you found, much greater violence that you found, it would merit the higher level. That's why we have the higher level. The lower level would be, again, you find somebody guilty of sexual assault by physical force or violence. There's a reason why there's a 2-year. There's a reason why there's a 20-year. The reason there's a 2-year is because what are the factors that you found here? Is it because it was coercion? Is it because he took advantage of his position as an employer? But there wasn't any bruising, there wasn't any cutting, there wasn't any black eye, there was nothing like that. That, in my opinion, should probably be in the lower range of this type of offense. And that's why we have the range of punishment from 2 to 20. And I want you to consider that when determining this. Also is, do you feel that Mr. Gunner, do you want to punish him? Do you want to try to help rehabilitate him? Do you want him to assist Ms. Jennings in monetarily, if he's on probation? If that's the case, you could order that if you can order him to be sentenced to 10 years in prison and order community supervision. If you do that, if he gets on community supervision and fails community supervision, the judge, I guarantee you here, would have every right and would sentence him to 10 years in prison. But he would be on probation for 10 years if he messes up at all. And he'd have registered sex offender for life. That's the price he's going to pay for this. If you order restitution to Ms. Jennings, that's the price that he should pay for this, for her therapy, for anything else that she needs to heal her here. That's something that would come as part of probation, that he is monitored, that he had put on an ankle bracelet where they monitor his whereabouts. They track him 24 hours a day. That's also a part of a condition of probation. So he can be regulated and monitored very intensely and severely here to make sure his movements are restricted and controlled. And remember, this case has been going on for 5 years already. There's no evidence that he violated any of the conditions of pretrial. So in my mind, at least, in my opinion, that would be helpful for you in determining what this man is. He can do well under supervision. He's done it for 5 years so far while this case has been open. He didn't contract, he didn't do certain things, he didn't get rearrested. It didn't happen again. The story that you heard him tell his wife, that he just didn't have good experience with women. I can certainly see where that can happen in a country like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. It's just different there. It's different. When you come to, I myself am an immigrant. It's just different from your country. Until you're here long enough, you start assimilating, you become more familiar here. And I certainly would put it to you that this man is in that journey. He's in that journey of becoming a better person here as a man, like the way he's supposed to be here, not in Turkey, not in the other country, but here. And he's done well and the last 5 years in particular, to demonstrate to you that he would do well in probation, that he would obey you, and if he doesn't, he can go to prison for 10 years, even if he's on probation for 9 months, and 9 years and 9 months, and he messes up, that could send him right to prison immediately. He'll always be a registered sex offender. Maybe some of you have had relatives that been in that position, you know what it does to their lives. It will harm him, it'll hurt him. If you feel he deserves that, he will have that. It will happen. People that will be near him will know that he's a registered sex offender. He'll be listed. If he doesn't register, he can go to prison for that. It's a felony not to do that. So there are plenty of means for him to be controlled and supervised to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I certainly would ask you, and part of this obviously is, this is an issue of law. And I can't tell you what this does. Just to me, I can't imagine what it does to you to bear this burden, but I would ask you to be merciful. Be merciful. I don't know how to put it, but it's almost like I want you to be like your God, like our God, to be merciful.
Object improper argument, like that'll be sustained.
And in a way, there certainly is the ability to do such a thing in a manner that this person is controlled. He got an ankle monitor. He got GPS. We can know where he's at 24 hours a day. He's not going to be just free. That's not going to happen. So I would beg you to be merciful. You can order $10,000 fine, restitution, the restitution for Ms. Jennings, community service hours, so that he can serve the community. Registered sex offenders already there, so anybody come near him, neighbors, everybody will know who he is as a sex offender. Please be merciful. And this also, if one of you wants to give probation and one of the other jurors or judges doesn't want to give probation, you don't have to agree. You don't. If you feel you want to give probation, stand your ground. Be merciful. Thank you.
All right, state.
Okay. Thank you for your verdict. Thank you for holding him accountable for what he did to Jayla. This is the part of the trial where now we hold him accountable for what he's done, not just to Jayla, to other people and to who he may hurt in the future. Probation is not something he deserves. You heard from his wife. While Jayla was in depression, while Jayla was going through trauma, he was meeting a woman and getting married and going about his life. She said that he's already been punished enough. No, that's not a punishment. It's been too long. It's been too long. Mr. Gunner used his restaurant like a spider web. Unsuspecting women come in. We already know about Jayla, and you got to learn about Jessica. Come in. He talks to them, acts professional, always professional. And then when he has them alone, he attacks. Now, he doesn't use violence. He does it insidiously, subvertly. He uses control.
I'm so sorry.
manipulation to get them alone, and he pounces. And he takes advantage of the fact that he knows women get scared of men when they do that, and they freeze. And he's in his 50s. This is not something that he's going to change. And the way he does it, it's in a manner, and I think you saw it in Jayla, you saw it in Jessica. Over the years, they almost blame themselves. Like, I could have just left. It's the mental trauma that clearly his friends don't understand. Oh, he's been monitored for 5 years. He's been punished enough. No. Jessica, what happened to her didn't even arise to the level of sexual assault. It didn't. It was touching. It was almost sexual assault, but it wasn't. And here we are 9 years later, and she still cries about it when she talks about it. She still has nightmares about it. Jayla will probably have effects from this for the rest of her life. Hopefully not. She sounds like she's doing what she needs to do. She has her emotional support animal. She's gone to therapy. She has a support system, but she still watches her back. She still can't be alone with people. She doesn't trust older men. And that's because of him. It's because of him. And I'll submit to you, he has zero remorse. The way his wife stepped up, oh yeah, well, it's because she kissed him and got himself in a bad situation. Clearly, he has not shown any remorse for what he did. Probation is not acceptable. Now, in the charge, you heard about parole and how that affects. So because this is a sexual assault, he will have to serve half of whatever time you may give him before he's eligible for parole. Again, I want you to think of the fact that Jessica, 9 years later, still suffers because of what he did to her. So a 20-year max, he'd be eligible at 10 years. I don't like putting a number. I really don't. But in this case, with these facts, 20 years is reasonable. And that's what we're asking.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna let you retire to begin your deliberations. All right, everyone can please rise for the jurors. ahead. Hmm. Yes.
All right.
There's been some slight movement in the seating arrangements. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the court is in receipt of both questions, and these are the answers to your questions. First question, where does the fine go to if that decision is made? Any fine assessed is paid into the registry of the court is the answer. With regards to how does restitution work? The court, in determining whether to order restitution and the amount of restitution, shall consider the amount of the loss sustained by any victim and the amount paid to or on behalf of the victim by the compensation to victims of crime fund as a result of the offense and other factors the court deems appropriate. That is the answer to your second question. All right, thank you. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. She's probably going out.
Ready? All right, for the jury. Oh, everyone, please be seated. Oh, okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the court's understanding that you have a verdict. Is that correct? And is it unanimous? All right, and deputy, if you will give the court the verdict. Thank you. All right, it states, we, the jury, assess your punishment at 8 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. There is to be a $10,000 fine, and the application for community supervision is denied. Would anyone wish to poll the jury defense?
No, you
All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I will do now is I'll have you go back to the jury room with Deputy Laura, and I'll meet you back there shortly. And if you would like to go to the back with the jurors as well, you may also do so. And everyone, please rise. And counsel, I need a trial court certification. I don't know if you fill that out.
I thought I had it. If I haven't, I will.
Oh, let me check. Oh, please be seated. Oh. And knock on the door to let Deputy Mejia know we need him back. Yes. Just one moment. Yes. Yes. All right. Yeah. All right. Please. Yes, but I need to sentence him.
I got it. Okay.
All right, and counsel, if I could have the copy of the. I'll do it. All right, so Mr. Gunner, the court will follow the juror's verdict. And the court will sentence you to 8 years in the prison. There's a $10,000 fine. Time and money is to run concurrent. There's Chapter 62 registration, and the court will give you credit for any time served. Next, I'm going to show you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that with your attorneys? Did you understand it? All right. You do have a right to appeal. Is there anything else from either side with regards to sentencing? All right, Mr. Gunner, it's the court's understanding that there is victim impact. I require everyone to treat everyone with respect, so you will be treated respectfully, and I require that you treat them respectfully, okay? All right.
You need to come on this side. Stay right there. Kadir, I hope you know what goes around comes around. And when it comes back around to you, I hope your higher being have mercy on your soul, since you had no mercy on my daughter. I hope you go to prison and spend every day with the haunting thoughts of what you did to my daughter and others, how you abused your authority and treated women as objects instead of human beings. Moving forward, Kadir, you're in America. Act like it.